Have something on your scrapbook page that was meant to sparkle or blink? Add this Blinky animation technique to any online image, whether it's in a gallery or in an email. Hi, this is Jen White from Digital Scrapper, the very best place on the web to find complete and professional instruction for digital scrapbooking. We help you get your stories told. This video is being filmed in Photoshop Elements, but the instructions are exactly the same for Adobe Photoshop, except where noted. I'm beginning here in expert mode of Photoshop Elements with a flattened scrapbook page that would lend well to this technique. I chose this page because I thought it would look neat to have the Christmas lights sparkling. Other kinds of photos or scrapbook pages that would work well for this tutorial would be pages that contain glittery snow, sparkling water, or any other kind of flashy bling. This particular document has already been resized and saved for web use. If you'd like to follow along exactly with me using the page that I'm using, you'll find it in the Downloads folder that came with this video. And if you'd like to use your own scrapbook page and need help creating a web copy, you'll find help in the manual that came with this video. So once you have your web copy of your scrapbook page open, the next thing to do is to create a Blinky layer. To do that, press the letter D to reset the color chips to the default of black over white, and then press Ctrl J, Command J on a Mac to duplicate the background layer. In the Layers panel, double-click directly on the name of the new layer and rename it Blink. The next step is to add a contrast layer. In the Layers panel, click on the Create a New Layer icon and then rename this layer Contrast. Next, get the Brush tool, and in the Tool options, open the Brush Picker, then open the drop-down menu and choose Default Brushes. Choose a soft round brush. In Photoshop, you'll find the soft round brush in the General Brushes. Back in the Tool options, set the opacity to 100% and the mode to normal. In Photoshop, you would also set the flow to 100% and the smoothing to 0. Now I'm going to zoom into my scrapbook page so that I can clearly see these lights. To do that, I'll press Ctrl+, that's Command+ on a Mac, several times. And to reposition the zoom, press and hold the spacebar and then click and drag on the document. Hover your cursor over an area of the page where you wish to add the Blinky contrast to. I'm planning to start with these red lights. So let's adjust the size of the brush. Press the left or the right bracket key to change the size of the brush until it closely resembles what you are wanting to stamp over. I'm going to make my brush approximately the same size as the Christmas tree light. On the document, click once to stamp over that light, and then I'm going to do the same thing to the other 3 red lights on the scrapbook page. Now with that contrast layer active in the Layers panel, change the blend mode of the contrast layer from normal to overlay. To see what a difference that made, in the Layers panel, click on the visibility icon of the contrast layer to toggle it on and off. I will leave it visible because then we need to merge the contrast layer with the blink layer. To do that, press Ctrl E, Command E on a Mac. So at this point, you could stop with just one Blinky layer, but if you'd like to add an additional Blinky layer, say for the blue lights, then this is how you do that. In the Layers panel, click on the background layer to activate it, duplicate the background layer, and then click and drag the duplicate layer to the top of the Layers panel. I'll rename this layer Blink, and then click on the Create a New Layer icon and rename this layer. We're following the exact steps that we followed previously. Now we'll want to brush on the contrast layer. I still have the brush tool and the settings are still the same, but this time I'm going to click on each of the blue lights. Again, I'm going to change the contrast layer to a blend mode of overlay and then merge the layer down by pressing Control E, Command E on a Mac. Now I have 2 Blinky layers. You, of course, can add as many Blinky layers as you'd like, but I'm going to stop here at 2. So essentially what I have here is 1 layer for every step of my intended animation. No more and no less. The last step of the process is to create an animated GIF file. I'll first show you the easy way to do that in Photoshop Elements, and then after that I'll show you how to do it in Photoshop, which is much more complicated. So here in Photoshop Elements, to create an animated GIF file from the layers of your layered document, press Shift Control Alt S or Shift Command Option S on a Mac to open the Save for Web dialog box. In the dialog box, set the preset to GIF 128 dithered, and then click on the Animate option. Go down to the bottom of the dialog box and set the looping options to forever, and then change the frame delay to 0.5 seconds. To see what your GIF will look like before you render it, you can press the play icon, and your GIF will start playing in the preview window. When you're satisfied, click Save, and then choose an easy-to-find location for your file and click Save. Your GIF file can then be placed in an email, or it could be put in a gallery online, or even placed on Facebook, and it will blink away. So now let's take a look at step 6 of this tutorial in Adobe Photoshop. The first thing we need to do in the Layers panel is to right-click in Windows or Control-click on a Mac on the background layer and choose Layer from Background. This will unlock the layer. Click OK in the dialog box, and then you'll need the Timeline panel. In the menu bar, choose Window, Timeline. The Timeline panel will always appear at the bottom of the preview window. In the Timeline panel, click on the drop-down arrow and choose Create Frame Animation. Then click on the button that says Create Frame Animation. Next, click on the Video Timeline icon. That's the icon at the bottom left corner of the Timeline panel. And then we're going to give ourselves a little bit more room to work. So click on the Zoom In icon approximately 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that will give us a lot more room to work. Since my frame application is so small for recording the video, I'm going to click and drag that timeline panel out so that it's on its own, and I can resize it much larger. So this is what yours will look like, but it will likely be docked below your scrapbook page. Next, we'll create the timeline animation by clicking and dragging on the boundaries of these frames. For the top blink frame, click and drag the left edge to the 100F marker, and then click and drag the right edge of this top blink frame over to the second 15F marker. When I say the second 15F marker, you can see that there's one here and there's one here. So we're going to drag it to the second one. Next, we'll look at the middle blink frame. Click and drag the left edge of this frame to the first 15F marker, and then click and drag the right edge so that it matches up with the top frame. For the layer 0 frame, we only need to adjust the right edge. I'll click and drag that right edge so that it matches up with the 2 blink frames. Now it should look like a little stair step going up. And it's important that all the right edges of the frames are lined up. Now before we test the animation, I'm going to click and drag the timeline panel back into place down here below the image, and I'll squish it down here a little bit. So now you can see the lights on the scrapbook page. To test your animation, click on the play icon in the timeline panel. It will only play once, so if you want to see it go over and over again, you have to keep pressing the play icon. Once you're satisfied, press Shift-Control-Alt-S in Windows or Shift-Command-Option-S on a Mac to open the Save for Web dialog box. And then in this dialog box, set the preset to GIF 128 dithered, and the looping options should already be set to forever. Click Save, and then in the dialog box, choose a easy to find location and click Save. So that's how to create a Blinky scrapbook page. This has been Jen White for Digital Scrapper.